G'day guys, and welcome to a quick preview for Warwick Farm. Australia Day, 26th of January. Rails in the 5 metre position, good 4 overnight, which says that they've put a lot of water on it. Let's have a look at how much they're saying they've put on it. So they're saying, they're not saying, here we go, irrigation 2 mils last 24, 27 mils last 7 days. Saw what happened to Hawkesbury on Sunday, where the fence was apparently walked like it was squelchy, so it was an incredible amount of water they put on there. 5 metre position helps them a little bit to stop the fence going off, I guess, but keeping a close eye on the pattern here. Probably dries out as the day goes on, but still keeping a close eye early. It's hard to work out what's going to happen here. Usually they'd still come a few off in the straight, but more worried about how fast the track's playing and whether it's easy, whether you can run on comfortably or not, or it's actually a bit of a nightmare setup, this one. So keeping a close eye on everything early in the day, but setting up for a pretty neutral to on-pace advantage with that rail out, the 5 metres. First race of the day for the 3-year-old, sorry, and Irish Success comes up favourite. No, it doesn't, not anymore. Excellent Design's favourite from Irish Success, about from 320. Excellent Design, 460. Irish Success, $5 the top one. Lyric, Kookaburra, $7. Temperado, $8. $9.50. Reflectivity, $13. Regal Cannon. Funny little race to start the day. I didn't think there was a great deal of speed in it, which made life interesting. The favourite obviously used to start badly in a provincial race last time out. Probably got, I'd say, Regal Cannon kicks up and leads, even though it's got the blinkers off. And Irish Success may be the only other shot at the title horse. I'd say Salvador takes a sit, and Kookaburra probably tries to roll forward and find a position. As well, Reflectivity does have the blinkers on. From the inside gate, so I'd say it'll hold probably a third defence spot. Excellent Design did miss the start badly its first start, but as I said, it was in a provincial race and a fairly strong one, so its effort was pretty good, and it did come up the worst part of the track there after missing the kick. Extra 100 metres looks ideal if it bounces and lobs into a position, which it could. It's probably one of the harder horses to beat, but looks extremely aggressively priced off a provincial effort there on this. I thought Irish Success was short enough to. It had its chance definitely first up, can improve, but is a bit of a nightmare horse to gets the head up, does a few things wrong in the run, back up to 1200 metres. Could be a little bit vulnerable late, and a good test to see how that fence is looking. The Lyric back from 14 to 1200 metres looks interesting. Did over race quite badly last time and hit the line okay, so possibly the drop in distance will help. I'm sure they just love to bounce it out and slot in somewhere and not have it work too hard in the run. Come with one run. Kookaburra, I thought it's been trialling really well. 2 trials into this, its form was pretty strong, even though it's run 4th basically every start it's ever had. Its last 5 in a row. Second at Evolving, Hormoran, Sheikah, Perorata, Sambro, Aeon Air, Deprive, Unforgotten, all quality horses. Obviously first up, I think $7, it's the extreme value in the race, drawn to have to push forward from that wide gate and just needs to even luck to be in the finish. Fitness obviously important as well there. It doesn't seem an extremely difficult race to win for a horse with that sort of form, so I expect it to run well. Its best form was actually on softer ground, that is the one query, but still pretty solid form all the way through. Last prep on firm footing, but only 3 runs, so that's probably the one query for mine. Has been gelded since last preparation. So Kookaburra from Excellent Design and Lyric probably there, but I want Excellent Design to get out in the betting to have a bet, and I'd love to see some money for Kookaburra, so probably something small on it. and could top up at shorter odds if it's well backed, just because the confidence is there from the camp. Race 2 is a very equal race for mine, and a tough one to work out. Rock and Ruger looks to get a really soft time of it in front. And Amanito, certainly an interesting horse, putting the line through that run, 2 starts back. Good effort on debut, where it ran down a nice enough horse that had a soft run, then came out and won against a slow tempo where it was held up in the run and beat Cyrus Rocks. Obviously Cyrus was only first up there, but he's come out and won dominantly again since. Rock and Ruger went from 11 to 14, second start in a race, and put on a solid tempo and won after sitting outside of horses like Almahara. Good effort there. The Ladies' Boy was beaten narrowly by Prometheus, came with it. There was a nice gap to third, but it was a bit of an ugly race. Thought it had every possible, and it might be a little bit more of a risk here coming off a Kembla run. And Jolly Honour was beaten in a slow tempo race behind Campaign and Picklorb. Last time did look to be warming up, probably maybe even further than 1600 looks ideal for him. May get a touch out sprinted here by 1 and 2. I thought they sort of stood out as the 2 hardest to beat. 161 kilos might slow the one up a bit, but there are all high weights here, 61, 59 and a half. And Jolly Honour may be the strongest lady if they go a little bit early. It could be the closer. I thought 1, 2 and 4 were the danger, the chances. I wanted to be against the 3, but no real excitement here for me to want to play. Rock and Ruger is certainly short enough at 320, the top one about right 380, and probably Jolly Honour's about right at 420. So I think it was sort of 5 to 2, take your pick. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. That sort of makes sense to me. Race 3, very interesting race. It has been back this morning already once more, a lady, but it was the horse that I settled on as just a bit of a nightmare horse. Its form at Warwick Farm was it's only had 1 start, sorry, so 2 starts here, and it won 1, and last time had no luck at all. When racing wide and wider, not beaten a long way there, beaten a couple of lengths. It's come out and it's just running a slow trial. I started actually running a fast trial, chased our Crown Mistress, gapped the rest, and they yanked it out of the start. In its latest trial. As you said, it's a slow timer. You see what the horse is just doing this under absolutely no pressure and nearly pulling itself into the race. See it across the line, never given any sort of dig, and just looks to have come back better, if anything. Looks to find a race where there is enough pressure to see her find a position, probably 3 wide on the back of a Missile Coda or something like that if he doesn't cross. If late it's all, to me, I can see Sweet Surprise kicking up, Lead Me Astray kicking up, Lake Lugano having to work that little bit more to cross if he wants to, or getting stuck, and Missile Coda's a little bit no man's land. So I can see a 3 wide train here, and I can see Missy once more a lady on the back of that train and sprinting hard first up. 370 is the best available at the moment. There was $4 overnight. I think that's fair enough to find out. It's not the most bulletproof horse I've ever seen, but it just looks ideally set up here and looks to be a really nice fresh horse. Nonpareil scares me, blinkers on, should be fitter now, gets a nice setup back towards its home ground and can run well. I think $8 is fair enough hit, and I think Lake Lugano's a classy type, and if it gets across it's going to be a nightmare to run down. So if it can cross them early and they all sort of sit up, then it's definitely the horse to run down. So to me it's probably once more a lady from Lake Lugano because of the setup changes. If they go quick, I want to be on once more a lady. If Lake Lugano crosses, I want to be saving on it, and Nonpareil's the danger horse at $8. Race 4, and unfortunately, there's a scratching here of my Maha, whatever you want to call it, this morning. Limbo Soul came out yesterday, which has absolutely sucked the life out and the value out of this race. We were getting sort of $3, $3.50 about Brook Magic with my Ma in, sorry, and we were getting $7, I think, $7.50, $6.50, $5.50, or whatever it was about Rose of Man, who just looks to be absolutely airborne this preparation. Would have been happy to back them both at that price. Now they're into sort of $2.40, $4, which is skinny enough. I do think they're clearly the two hardest to beat. I'm definitely not backing anything to beat them. Brook Magic's a flying machine who's been trialling extremely well. Just looks to get on pace again here without much trouble. Puppet Master gets the blinkers off, which will help. She'll either lead or sit outside it. Puppet Master's not the greatest horse away, so I could see Brook Magic leading clearly here. Mana's certainly not as fast a horse. First up for the new stable with the big weight. I think Brook Magic's clearly the horse to run down, and Rose of Man, who's been racing a lot closer. If Puppet Master crosses Gender Bien and Rose of Man slots into a sort of position third, fourth, it's the horse to hold out late in the race. Race 5. Your Night Temple, Lead Me Astray come out. Another really good race. The whole race basically centres around the return of Mahalunga, who has trialled up quite well. Classy type that ran in some nice races last preparation and always promised to be a better horse this time in. Could just be way too good for these horses, but again, another horse that needs the run-on pattern to be in play, or at least a fair track. All in the Reflexes has been extremely well backed and is quite short now at 480, but does look the one to get up on speed into a nice solid challenging position and running well. Thought it ran really well first up in an unsuitable race. I thought if you sort of Mr. Grumpy or one of these horses decides to lead, that All in the Reflexes could come across. If it led, it'd be a nightmare to run down. Mahalunga we see is drawn in a bit of no man's land out wide here and looks to sort of get back if possible. Could find the back of Swaloo possibly, and that would be a great position for it with the blinkers on. Swaloo's just lacking that killer blow, and the pattern always hurts her, whereas Mahalunga should be bursting through the line here over 1200 metres late. Obviously this is not going to be its final goal, but it just does have some class and upside that others don't have in this race. So I think it's between All in the Reflexes and Mahalunga. There are interesting horses, Bold Chance, Kanga's Eye, I'm happy to risk. Swallow obviously the other one that's going well, and even Phoebe's Lasso won last start but has a few quirks. So for me it's definitely Mahalunga on top if it can run on, and basically if you can run on it's certainly the horse to beat, and All in the Reflexes is the one who would be up on speed and the one to run down late if it gets hoping the best result for Mahalunga would be a 3-wide trail on the back of Swaloo, and I think if it's even close to an even track, that's enough for it to be getting home. Race 6, the Australia Day Cup, really tough race. Quite a few horses here I don't think really are clawing out for 2400. Destiny's Kiss is not one of those. It's definitely one that'll appreciate the 2400. Mighty Lucky I think stretched at that distance, but so honest. Montauk certainly is stretched at 2400. Vasal's the one who's racing really well, had a trial, I think, since it's had 25 days since its last start. I think it comes here with the strongest form lines. DIC is another, I think, stretched at 2400. Imperial Aviator was just very ordinary in its last 2 runs in Melbourne. You forgive those, and maybe I'd be watching betting with it. Cordero's certainly flying, but this is definitely its acid test. An extremely quick tempo last start, and he was able to get over the top of them late in the game there. Is there a bit of a query about that sort of strength of form? Certainly, but at least it was a Saturday race, and these horses, they're not got the deepest form in the world, even though Vasal seems to be racing well. I'm not sure about all of that form, but Cordero's the horse on the up. I think it's ridiculously short at $2.80. I think it probably should be a little bit longer than that, but is the horse with the perfect setup, dropping in weight, right rider, right gate, right distance, and it's going to run well. Waking Moment was certainly a lot better last start. Not sure where it gets to from gate 10, that's the query, but $16 seems a big difference between it and Cordero, considering he was only able to run her down late after she sort of got clear on a fast tempo last start, chasing the fast tempo last start. So she looks the value, but that's what scares me a little bit about the race as well. These horses like Mighty Lucky and Vassal are very solid campaigners over this trip, and I'd probably be siding with them at 550 and 750. I can't back Mighty Lucky, but it just sort of drags me back to that sort of form line. So Vassal seems to be the value at 550 for me. Race 7. 5 Flyer, Red Dubawi, Red Viking, and Just Keep Giving have come out. Tempo looks ugly. Quite a few horses who want to race in the pace. We've seen that Peribson wants to get them rolling, so it could try and kick up, or at least a mid-race move, which makes the race even uglier. 2200 metre race, another little funny distance. I thought Irish Optimism was really good last start, considering 1550 to 19 off a slow tempo will only be improved. 2200 looks fine, and definitely a horse on the up. Maps quite awkwardly and gets the Apprentice this time, which is 2 queries. Beijing Board stepped up last start and really did a good job there. 21 days, up 300 metres. Looks okay. Peribson 2200 metres off a 23-day break, so up 300 as well, up 200 metres. Was first up when it won over the second up when it won at the 2000, so this is okay. Should run very well. Just how one-paced it is scary, but it did run time last start off a fast tempo, so not putting a line through it, but $3.80 is definitely skinny. I thought Hurricane Harbour was going extremely well and should get a nice enough on-pace run here. 2200 metres is a little query, but still $10 looks fair enough. Thought Rock de Casbah was pretty much handed the win last start in Melbourne, and this is much harder. All Cash, honest, 2200 metres looks a good positive and is a knockout hope at $16. I thought Blanco Cara was quite short, especially considering the rider and where it looks like getting to in the run here. It's either going to be forced forward or back, and that looks dangerous for both. It needed to draw a gate for mine. Bella Galliano's not completely out of it. 31 days is a long time between runs though, but it does find a softish run here, and It's a Fate Complete is certainly going extremely well. Looked all but home last start and can be fitter again. If it runs out the 2200, despite the rider change, it can run well as well. So it's quite an interesting race. I think there's a bunch of chances. I think Irish Optimism can win, Beijing Board, Peribson, Hurricane Harbour, All Cash is a knockout, and so is It's a Fate Complete. It's quite an interesting race, and not one that I'm too excited to play in. Maybe a quaddie. Lucky Last, Pure Rebel Weekend Affair, You Make Me Smile, Promising Horse, and Walshy all scratched. Very similar last race. There looks to be a lot of chances. I thought Wang Hua back in trip was a bit of a risk, but is a knockout hope from the inside gate, and probably one you want to have in your quaddies on your side unless it's on pace. But even then, there could be a bit of a Charge of the Light Brigade situation in the last race, which happens quite regularly. There isn't a lot of speed on paper. If I get the right race up, it'll help. Red Knot, Showmasters, not that quick. Montpere and Tamarack don't really want to go forward, so it looks to be Red Knot, and then Onslaught box seating, quite a few runners sort of waddling across looking for a spot. That 1400 metre start there is obviously not one that people get too excited about finding a great deal of cover on either, because of that 1400 metre shoot start. It's just one run, one turn, so usually it's slow tempos. This doesn't look any different, and that doesn't help the setup for the race either. Sort of go down the page, so Wang Hua back 150 metres, sort of a positive rider change, but does need luck. Nanking Koo's first up, races well around here, should find a good spot, but not an easy task. Mo the Great's racing extremely well. Backing distance is a funny one, but can do a bit of work and run well, should be honest. Bon Equus is a knockout horse. It's got ability, but it does race well, fresh on occasion. just interesting to see where he ends up, and a run on pattern will help him. One pair certainly closer than to its best last start. Possibly rolls forward here, depending on the early speed in the race, and can improve, but needs to. Red Knot has had a 56 day break. We've seen it gets that on pace spot and can whack away, but not an easy task for it off a freshen. Cool Vinny was really good last start, its last bit, after a sort of a funny run first up where it didn't look to be trying too hard, and definitely a horse that can run well here if it gets a 3 wide trial from an awkward gate. Onslaught had its chance last start, can be improved, needs to, gets the right run too, and is dangerous. I probably have to mark it a bit shorter than I have now, simply because of that. Vanaloquio is honest, doesn't win. Hang on, I missed Tamarack. Tamarack was okay last start. I thought he was just given a pretty average ride in a nice race. He'll be in a similar spot to Cool Vinny, and I can see him coming down the middle of the track with Cool Vinny. Aquatic's a nightmare. He always looks better than he always looks to go really well. He's a flashing light horse. Needs a good ride from an awkward gate as well. Bullet Shot, he's a middle distance horse, resuming. 125 days first off with Winona on board. Definitely, he's in the sort of same gate as Bonnet was for mine as a middle distance horse, fresh first up at the 1400, who needs everything to go its way to win. So a tough race, and again a very similar race to race 7, where it's a bit of a quaddy race. Unfortunately, quite a bit of the value has been sucked out of the day by scratchings. We'll keep a close eye on the pattern to see whether we'll be betting in too many races there. I can't see too many early things being sent out, but after 1 or 2 races, which are not the most exciting, well, the first race is probably the one that should give a good guide to the track. Race 2 won't, with a 5-6 horse race, you wouldn't imagine. But we'll keep a close eye on that and send anything out that needs to, like as an update, when we get a better hold on the pattern rather than going a little crazy early and being locked into those selections throughout the day. So I'd say it's going to be more of a quaddy leg sort of day with a few small plays thrown in and maybe one at Port Macquarie. So thanks guys.